to my YouTube channel. My name is Abisola Olu-Ojo, and if you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to talk about culture shock. Since moving here over 4 years ago, I think that now is the perfect time to talk about my culture shock experiences. So if you are interested, definitely keep watching. Number one culture shock has to be the Australian vocabulary. Australians have a very unique vocabulary. They have slangs for almost every word, and they love to abbreviate their words. An examples would be conversation, would be convo, umbrella would be brolly, sweets will be lollies, breakfast will be breaky, afternoon will be avo, avocado will be avo, and so many more. So it took me a while to understand or engage in conversations. If you hear two Australians speaking, it might get very confusing and you might get lost in the conversation. They have several slangs. So if you're new to the country, you definitely want to do your own little research to understand the Australian vocabulary. So that was my first major culture shock. Number two has to be Australians love small talk. If you ask them how are you, just ensure that you have time to listen to how they really are, because they don't mind telling you. They will give you all the gist and information you want to have. They are very open people. They are also very positive, and they take time to engage in conversations, and they just love small talk. If you ask the regular Australian about the weather, they will start to tell you everything they did because the weather was nice. They will go on and on about their last vacation. They're just very chatty people, and that was very interesting for me. Back home where I come from, people do not engage if they don't have strong relationships. It's only when you're very close to someone you give them all that information. But to just meet someone for the first time and talk about everything is not something Nigerians are very likely to do. So the next culture shock for me has to be living in rental accommodation. When we got our first rental property here, we were informed that they would have regular inspections. So once in every quarter, the owners of the houses will send the real estate agents to come and do an inspection. So they'll go around every single room, go around the entire property, just to see how well you are maintaining the property. That was a huge culture shock for me. They also have rules around what you can and cannot do in that property. So you can, for example, you can't drill nails into the walls to hang paintings or hang photos. That's not something that you would find common. You won't be allowed to do that anyway. But back home in Nigeria, if you have a rental property, you can literally edit the property as much as you want to. If you have the money, you can change the color of the walls, you can change the flooring, you can change the kitchen. For the most part, you're allowed to do whatever you like in a rental property back home in Nigeria. But that's not the case here. And that was definitely a culture shock for me. So the next one has to be here. Rent is paid weekly and your wages are paid fortnightly, which is very different from what we have back home in Nigeria. Back home in Nigeria, you get paid your wages every month and you pay your rent annually from what I recall. But here, rent is paid every single week and your wages most commonly will be paid every fortnight here in Australia. So the next culture shock will be public bus culture. So here you find bus stops, designated bus stops, and when it's time to get into the bus will actually stop and you get into the bus and you say hi to the bus driver. And when you're alighting from the bus will actually stop for you to get down off the bus, and then you'll find passengers saying thank you to the bus driver or cheers mates to the bus driver. Back home in Nigeria, that is not the case. If you're trying to get on a bus, the bus will most likely still be moving a bit slowly, so you have to jump onto the bus. And when you are coming down from the bus will most likely still be moving a bit slowly, so you have to jump down from the bus. And there's nothing like you saying thank you to the bus driver. That is very unlikely. You will most likely be getting off that bus upset with the bus driver for one reason or the other. So that is just totally different. And I understand that buses stopping and you saying hi to bus drivers will be very common in so many first world countries, but where I come from, that's not the case. So that was definitely a major culture shock for me. Number 6 will be car horns. If you hear a car horn behind you in Australia, it's most likely a warning that something is about to go wrong. You're either speeding or you're either about to hit another car, or something is just happening around you that shouldn't be. So when you hear the horn of a car, it would be best to look around to see if something is going wrong somewhere. But back home in Nigeria, the horn of a car is a means of communication. People press the horn to say bye bye. People press the horn to say I have arrived, or where there's traffic. You just hear it everywhere and every time. The moment you're driving out of your house, you could press the horn to tell the gate man to please lock the gates. You just press it, So just that quiet, peaceful driving experience was a culture shock, which should also not be a culture shock, but it was a culture shock for me because the roads are very peaceful, everybody's following traffic rules, everybody's doing the right thing, and you hardly ever hear the horn of a car. So that was a culture shock for me. Another one has to be around the healthcare system. So here, well, back home in Nigeria, what we do is if you feel sick, you drive straight to the hospital and you get to see a doctor. But here, it's totally different in the sense that if you feel sick, you will drive to a medical center and ask to see a general practitioner, which is commonly called a GP here. So what happens is when you drive to the healthcare center, you speak to the general practitioner and say what the problem is with your health. And then they will most likely give you prescriptions, and then you go to see a pharmacist and get the medications that you need. Or if it's something really severe and you have to see a doctor, the GP will then give you a referral to see either a pediatrician or a gynecologist, or depending on what the health issue is, you will get referrals, but you don't just drive straight to a hospital to see a doctor. The only time you would do that is if it is an emergency. You can head straight to the hospital to get seen by a doctor immediately, or you might have to call an ambulance to drive you straight to the hospital only when you have an emergency. But for any basic healthcare issue, you have to drive first to a medical center and you see a GP first before being referred to or transferred to a hospital. So that was definitely a major culture shock for me, because back home, if something is wrong with you, you drive straight to see a doctor in a hospital. Okay. So the next culture shock will be around the love, the respect, and the regard for animals. If you have a pet here in Australia, having a pet is a big deal. You take on pet insurance. You might pay thousands of dollars if your pet is sick or has to do a surgery. If you see a snake here, you can't just say you want to get rid of the snake by yourself. There's professional snake catchers that you will call to say, hey, there's a snake in my building, can you help me get it out? You can't just, get rid of a snake. But back home where I come from, if you see a snake, even if the snake is not in harm's way, you would get rid of the snake somehow, but here generally, people would rather have pets than have children. That's not something I can relate with. So it was a culture shock for me. Thinking about it now, my kids want to have pets. So I believe that I will have to come around to, adoring a pet that much. But just hearing people talk about how much they love their dogs, how much they love their cats, the character traits of their dog, was a culture shock, because I can't really relate to that, kind of relationship with pets. So yeah. So moving on to the next culture shock, it will be around the laid back attitude of Australians. I find them to be very relaxed, very chilled, not so resilient based on my own experiences. If something is not working, they are able to just say, okay, I won't do that anymore. If they're going to school and they find a course very difficult, they'll just say, yeah, that's not for me, I'll do something else. But back home, we are very resilient people. We work twice as hard for every single thing, and by nature we just don't give up. But Australians just are very chill. They love to go on vacation, just enjoy life. Nigerians are totally different in that respect. Yeah, so another culture shock experience will be shops close very early here. They open rather late and they close very early. That was a major culture shock for me. So usually they would open by 9 a.m. and they would close by 5 or 5:30. Only the major supermarkets are open until 9 p.m. on the weekdays, and on weekends they close by 5 p.m. Why? Why? That's just too early. Back home in Nigeria, there are shops that open 24/7 or open till very, very late in the night. If you're at home and you just want to get a drink and you don't have any in the house, 9:30 p.m., 10:30 p.m., you are certain to find a shop that's open and you can get what you want. Here, once it's 6 p.m., so many, in fact, sorry, once it's 5:30 p.m., most of the shops are already closed, aside for Kmart, Target, Woolworths, and Kohl's will be open till 9 p.m. during the week, and on the weekends they are all closed at 5:30 p.m. That one was and is still a culture shock for me. Why would you close that early? I don't get it. Okay, so the last one I think will be the reliance on weather reports. So I recall an experience where I went for a party one evening, just dressed in a casual, dress, yeah. And then I got to the venue and found that everybody else was wearing sweaters and jeans and jackets and boots, just dressed up like it was cold. And it didn't take me any time to realize why, because I was freezing, 30 minutes into the party, I was cold. I just could not stay, there anymore because I was really cold. And my friend said to me, didn't you check the weather report before leaving your house? Didn't you know it was going to be cold? And I'm like, well, no, I didn't check because I was pretty new into the country then, and I just didn't think to check, because back home in Nigeria, you know what to expect. It's mostly hot, so I never think to check what the weather is going to be like because we always know what to expect. And here in Australia, weather can be very unpredictable. So it might be very sunny today and the next day it's going to be raining throughout. So if you don't check the weather reports, you might not dress appropriately for the day. So that was a culture shock, and it took me a while to adjust to that change and ensure that I'm always checking what the weather will be like before I leave my house. So yeah, I think that's all I intend to share in today's video. I hope you've enjoyed watching and listening. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I share videos on family, faith, and lifestyle, my migration stories, and just experiences as a Nigerian mom living in Australia. I'd love to read from you. Tell me what you enjoyed about this video. Tell me what you can relate with or what your own culture shock experiences have been. And until my next video, I'll see you guys. Bye.